Honourable mentions then. Journeyman by Eric Clapton. Of course, classic rock here. Its 11th solo album by EC. And a return to form really after his struggles with alcohol addiction and heroin. He'd recently found sobriety. The album captured an electronic sound which merged comfortably with his blues material. And of course there was an award for Best Male Rock Vocal Performance for the single Pretending. And it reached number 2 in the UK album charts. So let's go through the track, so to speak. You will note that there's virtually a who's of guest musicians which adorn the personnel page for this particular album, which sort of reflects on how Eric would be busy playing on other people's albums. This was reciprocated. So let's go through the tracks now. As I say, opens up with Pretending. Very much sort of modern blues feel to it. Great vocal by Eric. I think his vocals have constantly been improving since he tentatively started singing with Cream. The lead guitar dominates throughout really, although it has got that synth layered rhythm, and Chaka Khan on backing vocals. Bad Love is track 3, and Bad Love is a moody sort of song really. It's very much popular with the Americans, top the US rock charts, and it's got a Layla style intro riff which jettisons the sound into the typical rock vogue. A liquid guitar solo in the second half of the song, which is trademark slow hand. Then track 4, my personal favourite, Running on Faith. Tremendous mood with the acoustic picking riff and the choir killing you with emotion. The rolling piano juxtaposes with that acoustic guitar lead, and Clapton, its vocal is particularly attractive. It's an anthemic song, and it was on EC Unplugged, and continued to be part of his live set. Next up is Hard Times, written by Ray Charles. There's a few covers on here. This is absolutely scintillating. The piano and guitar trade punches with the horns sort of swirling above them. And as I say, there's a lovely scorching sax solo accompanied by some pieces of trumpet to support. Track 6 is let me have a look. It was track 6. Track 6 is Hound Dog. It's a Jerry Lee and Mike Stoller song, of course, but it's completely different to the Elvis version. I found it pretty mundane, really, but it's different. That's certainly true. It is different. So moving on then to track 7, No Alibis. There's some roaring lead guitar work which comes in from the start. Daryl Hall and Chaka Khan add some classy harmonies, and the Clapton solo is once again at the heart of this song. Track 8 is Run So Far, and this was written by George Harrison, who also played guitar on it and sang some of the harmonies, and it really does sound like it could have been taken off one of Harrison's solo records. So gentle, soft rock, very Beatley. Old Love is track 9, a really gutsy blues offering, and he's joined by Robert Cray on this, so they can have a little competition between them with the lead guitar solos, and there's a lengthy solo on here. It's absolutely perfect for those aficionados who indulge in guitar playing, particularly with the blues. And then I'm going to go forward to the final track, Before You Accuse Me, which is written by Muddy Waters. And again, Cray joins Eric here, and he takes the forefront with his solo, which is absolutely gorgeous, very raucous, and a great finale to the album. And that's basically what you get. If you're a Clapton fan, you'll love it. If you find him boring, you will continue to be bored by this. I absolutely love it. Honourable mentions then for 1989. First one up, When the World Knows Your Name, Deacon Blue. Very much amalgam of synths with pop, sometimes described as northern soul, which reflects really on the extremely talented vocalists. It's heartfelt British pop for sure. And there were 5 hits from this album: Real Gone Kid, Queen of the New Year, Fergus Sings the Blues, Wages Days, and one other I can't remember. The highlights on the emotional side, I think, Circus Lights and Sad Love Girl. And to give you an example of tracks, Queen of the New Year is really adorned with lovely feminine harmonies from Lorraine McIntosh, locked together with her hubby Ricky Ross's lead vocals, and they mix together throughout the album, just like gloves in hand, or hands in gloves, as they might say. On the Queen of the U there, the rhythm accelerates like a sort of country rock sort of pub band, and it captures the guitar riff with those frantic vocals. To give you some example of a track that I like the best, Circus Lights. It's really about 5 minutes of fame, and here's a little extract to give you a taster of the lyric. You're tired and you say you're angry, you're thankful for this blessed ray, and you think you know, but your old friends have to tell you again. Your books taught you all you knew, your tastes and patterns and your TV shows, but you can never follow where they won't let you go. Sometimes it's so hard to know. You want to display your charms on this bright night. You want to display your charms over these circus Christmas lights. Your cares, your misanthropy, your distant gaze is missing me, and your jewelry, that's what's blinded me from the reality. You want to display your charms on this bright night. You want to display your charms over these circus Christmas lights. Yeah, you can see the story would really represent working in a circus for sure, and that's what Ross is about. He's into lovely little stories. So that's my first honourable mention, and it's Deacon Blue. I think it was their third album, maybe their second album, When the World Knows Your Name, in 1989. Just to add to the comments regarding the Deacon Blue album, on Fergus Sings the Blues, there's brilliant use of the bass to capture that beat, and Real Gone Kid is probably close to being a perfect pop song amidst those 5 that I referred to earlier. Love and Regret was the one that I'd forgotten. but all of them catch your attention, and it's heartfelt British folk which uses elements of black music to create their sound. Another honourable mention here from 1989, and this is the Brazil classic Beleza Tropical. A host of artists on this. They're all from Brazil, and I came across this album initially when I saw that the notes to the album were written by one David Byrne from Talking Heads. And in '89, I was a huge Talking Heads fan, and so anything that Byrne suggested was good. I really rushed off, and I got the cassette for this album. And it's really a tremendous selection by a lot of artists that I'd never heard of. But I've subsequently got to know them. And what I'm going to do is just give a few highlights to the tracks and try my best with pronunciation. I won't go through them all. There's 18 tracks on this album by a variety of artists. The two of the most famous ones that I now understand are famous are Jorge Ben, who's crops up on 3 tracks, and Gilberto Gil, who crops up on 3 tracks as well. The first track is by Ben. It's called Ponta de Lanka Africana, and it's a very soothing mix of South American and African rhythms with some delicate vocals by Ben, and some female harmonies thrown in there. The second track is called Samba. This is by Maria Bathania and Gail Costa. I definitely recommend this one. Samba is what I heard. Samba. And then the third track is an offering by Gilberto Gil called So Quiero Zodo. And it really sounds like a serenade. There's some accordion on here, and it gently laps its way into your consciousness, and you can visualize perhaps a coastal music venue with these delightful rhythms seeping out from them. Track 5 is a folk song of Brazilian style, sang by Caetano Veloso. Very tasteful indeed. Solo acoustic guitar really dominate with the vocals, although there is some sort of echo work in the background. A tremendous high range of vocal abilities. Track 6 is by Chico Buarque called Caqueda, and here we get horns and percussion, flute. I hear a bit of flute, and they cascade around the vocals. It's definitely got jazz tones of it, and I thought a little bit of Stan Getz. Track 7 is Calixe, and here again the artist Chico Buarque, really harmonic this one, and some really lovely Spanish guitar. Now I could go on, but it would get too long. What I'm going to do now is just to give you a flavour of what David Byrne had to say and about this album. And he did the original notes back in '89, but he also returned to them recently, and he wrote this about the album, and I quote, "Wow, when did this first come out? 1989, over 30 years ago. I listened to some of the songs again yesterday, and well, they hold up. They're truly timeless songs. At the time, I wrote about the way this music joined musical sophistication with memorable pop melodies and often social and political commentary. A bit like Marvin Gaye's What's Going On, this music mixed sensuality with pointed social engagement. And I learned that though we often feel like screaming, we can also couch our awareness and frustrations in beauty and rhythm, which often makes it a more seductive and effective argument than a scream. Though a scream can be pretty damn cathartic for sure, but as beautiful as the songs sound, their message were pointed enough that some of these artists were actually jailed and forced into exile. Beauty can be pointed. And there's more to it there, but I think it sort of captures Byrne's appreciation of this, and because of this album, interest started to increase with Western audiences of world music, and with this particular album, of course, Brazilian music, and so Brazilian artists, particularly in New York City, started to get Western folk in the audiences. Previously, it's been really their own kind that swelled the ranks of the venues, but now we were seeing a mix of South American attenders with more sort of sophisticated Western rock and pop enthusiasts. That's my take on it anyway. It's a delectable piece of work. Suggest you get to listen to it. So number 6 in my top 10 for 1989 is a relatively obscure album called Alexandria. It's by Adrian Borland and the Citizens. Now, Adrian Borland was previously in the band The Sound, who basically existed throughout the 80s, although they did emerge at the end of the 70s, and I always put them into the same sort of bag as early U2, a bit of a clone, but more sort of dark. Their songwriter was singer and guitarist Adrian Borland, and there are a number of albums that I will recommend in the description that you ought to listen to with regard to the sound. All Fall Down is one that rings to mind, and From the Lions, name escapes me. Jeopardy was the debut anyway. After the demise of the sound, however, Borland put together Alexandria. It was his first project. Very much more melodic, really, less aggressive than the sound. The sound was, but definitely on the back of the punk wave. More experimental as well. His songs remain very dark and emotionally hard. But tragically, Adrian committed suicide in 1999 after a long fight with depression. 2 tracks to highlight then. Rogue Beauty, the second song, has some really nice string arrangements over an acoustic guitars. It's a song about romantic illusion. I love the violins and brass on it, and it adds style and depth to the song, and epitomises really the difference between this album and some of the material by the sound. Borland's emotionally charged singing and lyrics stay with you. My second offering is An Other Side of the World. Very dark, this one, but I love it. Think of a song from the soundtrack to a Sergio Leone western, and you'll get a little hint of what you're going to receive to your ears. The harmonies bleed out over the prairie. That's my visual metaphor anyway. Adrian's desire to escape to somewhere new, possibly the US, which again hits off with this idea of the other side of the world. The track also has an affinity with Mike Scott's At Waterboys, who were also very popular at the time. Alexandra, a passionate record delivered by a passionate man who luckily left us with a catalogue of music to explore before he departed. So I recommend my number 6, Alexandria by Adrian Borland and the Citizens. You might get it on Spotify. Very difficult to track this album down.